We now have Jan. All right, let's get her on here.
Yay!
Here she is. She's joining us.
Hey, Jan.
Hello. So Jan, you guys, is absolutely amazing. She's does a lot of work in HR. She's going to be doing an HR Disruptor Summit at which I will be speaking about the problems with the ATS and how we're going to fix it. And also mental health in the workplace and all of that. We will be talking about that as well because, as I have posted on LinkedIn, I do have bipolar disorder, and I actually think it's one of my superpowers. So I actually use it accordingly. So we will be talking about mental health in the workplace and all of that as well. So Jan, let's start with your origin story. This is how we've been starting with everyone today. Let's hear how you got into the amazing field that you're in and the amazing work that you're in.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's so great to be with you and Michaela today, and I'm excited to be here with some amazing women. I think that we all have a story of transition when we think about our origin story, and mine started in 2007 when I was at the height of my career in business development and in ophthalmology, and I created my job there. And was just having a great time working in my strengths. Then we lost our FDA approval for our second generation laser. So talk about from 0 to 100. If you don't have a second generation of FDA approval, you might as well, you're dead in the water, right? You have nothing to sell. So I saw that train, like literally got the call, Jan, you can't go on that appointment at University of Miami to sell a laser because we don't have approval. Okay, so you're sitting there in the coffee shop going, okay, you don't have to be real smart to realize that this train is going to be ending in about 6 months. Like, you're going to have to find out, like, are you going to sink or swim? Because if you have nothing to sell, they don't need you, right? So it ended up that I literally, synchronicity, I get a call from a friend of mine.
Photobomb. I'm sorry.
I love it. The baby kitties.
For those listening to the podcast that can't see, my cat has just photobombed us.
I love it. I love it. So
anyway, go ahead, Jan.
That we, synchronicity got into play. I ended up getting hired by our biggest competitor. Went to work for them. Vetted the manager I was going to work with. It was a merger and acquisition, so those are tumbling times. Just a lot of activity going on. Was hired for my strengths, so nobody had to micromanage me. They said, Jan, you already know what you're doing, just run with it. 2 months later, changed managers. So then I was put in a different position, and it wasn't in my strengths, but being who I am, I tried to fit a round peg in a square hole, and just thought maybe I should just try harder. And that literally led me to adrenal burnout. My hair started to fall out. My palms started to peel. I mean, literally crash and burn. My life then really went downhill. It was personally and professionally. I had to start over again. I couldn't keep on going. So that led to my transition. And then I started Better Job Fit because I wanted to make sure that people weren't placed in that in harm's way when it comes to being put in a position of your strengths versus failure. So literally that drove me to want to champion for employees and for individuals. When you're in transition or considering transition, you have to become a self-master, right? You have got to be prepared because the people on the other side, the quote unquote interviewers, they don't know you from Adam's house cat. They're looking at your resume. They have no idea how to utilize your strengths. So it's going to be up to you to know it like the back of your hand, to feed that information to those people and tell them how to utilize your strengths, right?
Yes.
That's the key.
Yes, 100%. And Michaela, you look like you had something you wanted to say about what Jan was to say.
Honestly, I'm just so glad. First of all, it's so good to just meet you in person finally. Hi. I was just very involved is what was happening for me, Catherine, to be entirely honest with you. I was involved in listening to her because you're bringing up so many great points that I had not considered before. So that was my absorbing face that you caught on to.
It makes you look so smart.
She was listening. She was engaged. Okay.
That's right.
That's right. She was engaged.
Actively listening.
That's so funny. And I love that too, because you got into your field for similar reasons that Kat Breet, who was on the show earlier, got into the business, and similar reasons that I did. You saw a problem and you went, oh no, we got to fix this. This isn't how it ought to be. Yeah, this isn't it. This is just ridiculous.
This is broken.
Yeah. And one thing that you and I talk about a lot is exactly that. What is broken? And then specifically how to fix it. And one of the things
sideways and get detracted on shame and blame and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Yeah. Give your 3-minute slinging snot and getting upset about it. And let's get into solution mode. Okay. What next? Right. We got to.
Yes. And first of all, guys, for those of you that are job seeking, that's exactly where you are. You're in, I know it's a fight or flight. I know that it's stressful and it's crazy. And you can blame so many things. You can blame COVID. You can blame slow hiring managers. You can blame discrimination. But ultimately, you have to find a way to get through it. And you can't focus on that blame game. It doesn't do any good. Michaela has talked about several times on the show about is it anxiety and excitement are from the same place in the brain, yeah. Michaela, is that right? All right, so do your spiel real quick.
My spiel, I get to do a spiel. Yeah. Yes, anxiety and excitement are very similar physiological reactions. You get heightened by both of them. And it's basically just that what the brain's perception is what changes it. And I'm trying to think right now off the top of my head, the physiological, because you have that cortisol boost when you have stress on you. Excitement, it tends to be dopamine or one of the other neurotransmitters like serotonin, but it's still that from the same place in the brain. And so you have that excitement and that physiological, the heart rate comes up and you get sort of jittery for both of them. So yeah, you can. Yeah.
And so keeping that in mind, is you just need to change the anxiety to excitement. And one of the things is, Paola talked about this, Kat talked about it, Jan's hinted around it. Don't let your resume define you, okay? Don't let your title, Sasha even talked about this, don't let your title define you, okay? Let what your abilities define you. So, I mean, look at Maggie and Sammy earlier in the show. They're in drone flying, professional drone flying, which is so cool. Still, I'm still very stuck on that, how cool that is. But it's so amazing. And they didn't have backgrounds in that. One of them was a claims adjuster, and the other one is in staffing, like me. And now they're both into drone flying, and they have skills that led them down that way. Let your skills define you and get creative, right, Jan? We were just talking about this. If something's not working, if your job search isn't working, get creative. And that may mean going a whole other direction.
And that is so true. And a lot of people, first of all, and Kayla and I talked about this when we first were on the phone. It's called self-perception theory. We cannot, it is proven, okay, not woo-woo, proven, that we as human beings cannot be objective about ourselves. We all have a story that plays in our head, right? We all have a history that plays in our head. Mm-hmm. So we can't be objective about ourselves. It's just impossible. You've got to create a mix of objective science, artificial intelligence, right? And that self-awareness, high self-awareness and introspection. You got it. This self-discovery stuff, we've moved on. Unless you're right into self-mastery, that you're not going to get very far, right? So the real work is that self-mastery piece. But you have to see, like I've shared with both of you ladies, I work with veterans and foster care alumni. So this young man getting ready for college, he's a 95% match to a graphic designer and a correctional officer. Who in the Sam heck would think that the same job match pattern is the same for a correctional officer and a graphic designer? You wouldn't.
That is interesting. No, that's very interesting.
I want to know the 95% of what I don't know about myself. We only know 5%, right? You mean to tell me that you're willing to bet the farm on 5%? I want to go and find out the 95% of what I'm a match to. Again, how do I take an objective match as a project manager? Well, I've never worked as, and that's right. As people say, well, that wasn't my title. I've never worked in it. Well, you probably weren't called a project manager, but let's look at the projects you were working on. And then you end up finding that person facilitated, 5 different departments for the project. Okay, that's what a project manager does.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, titles are not everything. Skills and abilities and personality.
Yeah, and you got to really look at it that way. But we're stuck in that programming, that false sense of belief system of the C drive, and we're not looking at it differently. And we're still playing the same game of, go, update your LinkedIn, update your resume. Unless you are thinking differently, that it won't matter what you write on there. You got to first think differently, right?
Yes. 100%. I completely agree. And I was told something so interesting a while back, and it was that, especially with executives. So that's a very niche thing, right? You have to be a very big picture person. You have to be entirely focused on results and problem solving and nothing else. No blame game, none of that. It's a completely different type of position. And so people that have been in management are often not very good executives because those are very separate skill sets. I was having this conversation with someone recently, and it's something that I guess I knew, but I hadn't really placed together. But it's very true. So there's a big difference between, deal with the employees manager, upper management, director level, and then C-suite. These are very different personalities. Right. Some people can do at least passable at all of those. For me, I'm a decent manager. I'm not the best, not going to lie. I'm okay, not great. I'd probably say, I don't know, maybe good. I don't know, but it's not my strength. And I know it needs to be done. It's just not my natural strength. My natural strength comes from the exec side. And it's just how my brain works. It doesn't make me better or anything like that. That's just how my brain works. And so I think, like you said, self-mastery, right? Understanding not only who you are and what you have, but what that means and what you do with it.
That's huge. It's one thing to possess knowledge of your skill set, but you got to have the connective intelligence and the next step to look at the company, to be able to ask questions. Like I tell people, I am a fanatic about NLP, meaning if you're not learning neuro-linguistic programming, you flipping need to up your human communications game. Okay. Yep. Because as they say, NLP in sales is essential. Well, if you're going for an interview, I call them discovery sessions. It's still, you're selling yourself, right? You got to do your part and really be the one controlling that conversation and being able to ask the right questions. So not only knowing what your skill sets are and being confident in it, you got to look at that job and then ask in those important questions about that position,
right?
And then insert, well, that's great. I did such and such, and start creating the stories behind those skill sets that connect to that job, because they're taking notes in what you say, hopefully, right?
Hopefully.
So now when they go back, and you can attest to this, Catherine, you're taking notes during the interview with the candidate. So now when you're going for your debrief with the manager, hiring manager, whoever, you're going to have one more step of intimacy or knowledge about that person, right? Than what you would have before, because you're writing down what they're telling you.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So if you're taking it to that next level of self-mastery and being able to feed that interviewer information on how you connect and your skill set connects to that job, this is a flipping no-brainer, because now when they're looking at the other candidates, they're not going to have that level of familiarity, right, with that person, because you're connecting the dots for them and making it easy, right? As I always say, don't make people work hard to hire you. Come on.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it was wonderful to have you on, Jan. Guys, please connect to Jan. Her link is in the comments. It was absolutely wonderful. Thank you. I will talk to you very soon. In fact, I think we have a scheduled call tomorrow. So
we love you. Thank you.
Take care, Jan. Bye.